Good morning. Welcome to Northern Light Spiritual Center. Northern Light Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Light Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. My name is Reverend Vaughn Amaré, and I'm here today with Reverend Mykal Amaré. Mykal will be serving as today's speaker, so he'll be kind of delving into some wisdom related to the we versus the me. So, we at Northern Lights acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room by Ron and Carol Harris. And the words will be on the screen if you can see them. You can sing along if you'd like, or you can be sung to. At this part of the service, we share in a meditation. I invite people to just kind of settle in to where you're sitting, or if you're standing, to just kind of take a moment and to become aware of the breath. As human beings, we are always breathing. And so often, it's something that we just simply take for granted. Unless we have a sickness or a circumstance, a cold, a fever, a flu, where breathing is hard, we generally just don't even think about our breath. And one of the names for the divine has been called spirit. And spirit has the same origin in word as inspire, the inspiration of the breath. So I invite us for just a moment to become more conscious of our breath. And the way to do that may be to simply breathe in through our nose. And breathe out. And breathe in again. And breathe out. And with these breaths in and breaths out, you may notice the sound, a little bit of a cacophonous sound of children playing. And with each breath in, I invite us to remember a time that we have engaged in play. A time where, just as we are conscious of our breathing, and we are conscious of being alive, that we can turn our consciousness towards those times when we could enter into play. So perhaps you can imagine that playground, and you can see where you may have gravitated. Were you on one of the swings? Were you in the line for the slide so that you could climb up, scamper up there, and then slide on down? Perhaps you were in the line for the bars, the overhead bars. And you were going to climb bar by bar and see how far you could get across today. Perhaps there was a wheel that was turning around. And perhaps you were one of the people that were running to get the wheel going. And you might hop onto that wheel when it got to that right speed. And you join with the rest of the children there. Perhaps this playground is just something that I'm conjuring, and what you actually had was a simple field. And perhaps you and other children played in the field or played on the blacktop. Were you jumping rope? Perhaps you were playing jacks. Perhaps you were in a game where you were part of a team, where you got picked. Perhaps you had a reflective day and you just simply wanted to walk around and chat with friends. So as we listen to the sound of the children playing, I just want us to allow ourselves to sink into our memories, to sink into our preferences as small children, and where we would have placed ourselves, and how we would have played among the other children. If this was during school time, this was a time of the day when there was no limits on when you could speak. There was no requirement to raise your hand and be called on. This was just a time of spontaneity. This was just a time of creativity. And perhaps you were just well aware of all that, and perhaps as I say this, it's like a light dawning that, oh my gosh, I did have this. I did have all of these choices. I got to pick who or if I played with anyone. I got to pick how I would interact with the other children on the playground. I got to pick if I didn't want to be on the playground and if I wanted to stay back in the classroom and help the teacher, if I wanted to stay back in the lunchroom, set up the chairs and the tables. Just allow ourselves to re-immerse ourselves in that experience of childhood. Just be present to that sense of play. And I overlay this time of recollection, this time of being cued with the sounds of the children playing, to where and how we play now. What are the ways that we recreate? Is it how we think about our morning meal, our evening meal? Is it a book we choose to read? Is it a show we choose to watch? Is it someone we choose to follow because their words inspire us? How do we choose to play in the world now? And just compare and contrast that little inner child and the adult who plays. Just lean into that sense of play now. Perhaps with some illumination from the player that each of us was as a child. Let ourselves give us space for that play, for that choice to engage in the world in a way that is deliberately joyful. In a way that says, I can have fun and I can just truly be in this moment. And I can let go of thoughts about tomorrow. I can let go of thoughts about this year. I can just be in the play of this moment. I can take my mind and give it some freedom. And with that sense of freedom and joy, just breathe that in. Breathe in freedom and joy. And then breathe it back out. Knowing that we are centers through which the divine is operating. And as we breathe in joy and freedom, that we have the capacity to become transmitters of that same freedom and joy. That those who we encounter may come to a space of freedom and joy simply by making eye contact or with the words on a text. So allow ourselves to come back into the rooms where we are, wiggle our fingers and toes. Imagine what it would be like to play and return to the room. And I say, Amen. I say, Ashe. And I say, and so it is. Now, at this point in the service, we typically have a reading. And this is an opportunity to reflect on somebody's ideas. Readings are also a way to engage in study. They're a way to expand. So meditation is a way to kind of get still and kind of play, whereas the reading is a spiritual practice where we may be able to learn something, where we may come upon an aha. Or we come upon a, oh my gosh, I knew that. And look at how smart I am. Look at how much wisdom I already have. Look at how I am already a carrier of wisdom. Today's reading comes from a woman named Crystal DeSantis, and she is the founder of Austin Strong Relationship Building Center in Austin, Texas. One of the most beautiful and powerful moments in life is when we remember that we are all in it together. When we find our common humanity. When we come together as one. Often people forget this and end up in the mindset that when one wins, the other will lose. There are the haves and the have-nots. That to give to one means we've taken from another. This polarization mindset leads to feelings of insecurity, isolation, loneliness, and mistrust. When this is the reality, people act in ways that are detrimental to the goal of peaceful, loving society. Because they fall into survival of the fittest mode. They'll act in ways that will damage others to benefit themselves. After all, Darwin suggested only the strong survive, right? Well, that maxim may be true on the macroevolutionary scale, so on the scale of generations and ages. But humans also evolved as social creatures. And we tend to be at our strongest when we are functioning well as a group, as communities, couples, families. When we put aside our petty differences and see each other as part of the same community, that's when we are at our best. That's when we thrive. This dichotomy between me first and common humanity comes to light particularly in times of crises. Consider the last time Mother Nature pummeled our country, leading us to see examples of some people reverting back to selfishness and cruelty, while others came together with generosity, openness, love, kindness. In times of uncertainty and fear, the anxiety response is to immediately think of self. However, when we take the time to acknowledge the fear and uncertainty and remember that we are stronger together, we can make the choice to respond with fear or with love. Do we make the choice to act selfishly to the detriment of others or to act in love and community with others? The fear response is one that closes you off and polarizes you from others. And see them as competitors. While the love response is one that opens us to the possibility of working together towards the same goals. Remembering that we are stronger together. This This lesson is not only useful in times of societal crisis, but also in times of interpersonal crisis or conflict. We can reframe our focus to see people as a unit rather than individuals competing. This becomes a key to diffusing the cycle of conflict. The next time we find ourselves in conflict, we can ask, what's my goal here? Is it to solve this problem with others, or to defeat them and burn my relationships to the ground? Are we approaching this like we're on the same side? Do we see ourselves as teammates or competitors? Which do we want to be? Sometimes asking ourselves this question is the key to realizing that if the goal is stronger together, then maybe the approach we have been using has sent the wrong message. Reframing our mindset to seeing others and ourselves as on the same side, and saying, when you and I are struggling, it affects the both of us. So let's work together to make it better, rather than feeling isolated in our own agendas and seeing others as our obstacles. Often this simple reframing in the issue is not a you problem or a me problem, but a we problem, and that can completely change the way we approach it and others. In the same way we shift from me to we, it makes for a better, more positive society, while it also affects our home and relationships for the better. And so it is. So as many of you know, I come up with a chant each month. So here is this month's chant. Which Mykal will get to eventually. There's only so much I can do on my own. There's only so far I can go. There's only this much I can finish alone. There's only this much I can show. There's only this much I can know. I'm so much more when I work together with others. I'm so much more when I dance on the floor with others. I'm so much more when I sing the score with others. I'm so much more with others. There's only so much I can do on my own. There's only so far I can go. There's only this much I can finish alone. There's only this much I can know. I'm so much more when I work together with others. I'm so much more when I dance on the floor with others. I'm so much more when I sing my score with others. I'm so much more with others. Second verse is you. There's only so much you can do on your own. There's only so far you can go. There's only this much you can finish alone. There's only this much you can know. You're so much more when you work together with others. You're so much more when you dance on the floor with others. You're so much more when you sing the score with others. You're so much more how there's only so much we can do on our own. There's only so far we can go. There's only this much we can finish alone. There's only this much we can know. We're so much more when we work together with others. We're so much more when we dance on the floor with others. We're so much more when we sing the score with others. We're so much more with others. Now we come back to I. There's only so much I can do on my own. There's only so far I can go. There's only this much I can finish alone. There's only this much I can know. I'm so much more when I work together with others. I'm so much more when I dance on the floor with others. I'm so much more when I sing the score with others. I'm so much more with others. Thank you for joining in. I can change it. Oh, I lost a kneecap. Not really. Feels like it though. Okay. The wrong thing. Hit wrong. Try again. Oh, okay.
We are part of everything, and everything is a part of us. We are human only through the humanity of others. I am because we are. Ubuntu. Come together, yeah, until the sky.
Good morning. And as you heard in the song, the title of my talk today, I changed it yesterday because I really like that better than the title that was out there. And it's I Am Because We Are. And in that song it said about Ubuntu, which is part of the Zulu life philosophy, meaning I am because we are. This month we're talking about going further together instead of separately. In a community, we embody a group mind of consciousness, a whole that is greater than the mere sum of its parts. And each individual is uplifted because of the support of the group. So the group is better because of the individual, and the individual is better and stronger because of the group. So it's a win-win situation. And if you think back in life, all the way from even a lot of you, before you were born, there was a community that took care. There was a prenatal, doctors and that took care of your mother and you before you entered the world. And then you go to birth, and there you have the hospital, again, the doctors, and whoever was there to care for you. And you keep going on. It's family, school. If you went in the military, then possibly, further education and your spiritual groups, or even 12-step groups, which are very supporting and uplifting. And that's what they're there for. And that's what every community, I believe that's what every community is there for, to enrich and to uplift the individuals in order to make the community stronger. And so in Living a Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes said, if we do not merge with others in cooperation, in unity, and happiness, we may be certain that there is something in us that still feels it has been rebuffed. So that, if we don't connect with others, it's really kind of hard not to connect with others. I know in the last year, almost 2 years, it's been hard to connect in person with a lot of people, and I know some people have, and it's a little bit easier now because we've learned to take precautions. We learned to do certain things we knew to do to protect the health and welfare of the communities by being a caring, responsible individual. Ubuntu is a foreign concept with that meaning I am because we are. It embraces the idea that humans cannot exist in isolation. We depend on connection, community, and caring. Simply, we cannot be without each other. This philosophy requires a conscious shift in how we think about ourselves and others, especially at times when our nation is more divided than ever. And sometimes we choose to be with smaller type communities, maybe 1 or 2 people. That's a community. Otherwise, other times we like to be with a huge community. Like maybe at a concert or something like that. But it all depends on where you are. And so we need each other to survive. And there's a song, I think, I Need You to Survive. And it's saying in there that we need each other. Because I can't imagine being alone in this world. I'm an introvert, so there are times when I cherish and I need alone time, separate time, time by myself. And that's okay, but I cannot do that 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I would go a little crazy. But there are times when some of us need our own personal space and time to reflect and to do what we need to do within. And a statement from our global vision is, we see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individuality and collectivity, we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. A world that each and every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle. And to be, another way, to be allowed to live in that, in their highest spiritual principle. I mean, there are some countries where where people are, they're not allowed to worship the way they choose to. And then there are repercussions for that. Fortunately, in this country, we are allowed that freedom up to this point. And so, Bishop Desmond Tutu made this statement here. It says, Africans have a thing called Ubuntu. We believe that a person is a person through other persons. That my humanity is caught up, bound up, inextricably with yours. When I dehumanize you, I am dehumanizing myself. The solitary human being is a contradiction in terms. Therefore, you seek to work for the common good because your humanity comes into its own community and belonging. And I love that a person is a person through other persons. And that my humanity is caught up, bound up, inextricably with yours. Yeah?
I just turned it off for now.
That the idea that we are bound together. And that's like I've always said, that I believe we are bound together in like this I imagine it this golden thread, and that weaves in around and through each of us, connecting us, like Desmond Tutu says, that we are a person. There is a person through other persons. And if we think about it, sometimes there are some people in this world that we probably don't want to be part of the persons, or them being part of us. But you're a human being, and that's inescapable, because we are here for the greater good of ourselves and for each other. And that's what makes the community stronger, because he understands that the potential of human beings working collectively, the thing is working collectively, to achieve goals in an infinitely greater than the potential of the individual. Because a group can go so much further and higher in consciousness and higher in whatever you want to go than an individual can. I mean, individually we can amass bundles of wealth, bundles of property, we can do that. But is that all there is? Is that all there is to life? Money and property and things? I say no. I say that the greatest things are things that you can't necessarily grasp with your hands. It's the people that create the life that you're part of. It's the people that have touched your life and helped form and shape the person that you have come to be. I was going through pictures the other day, boxes and boxes of pictures, and I ran across this one of my two grandmas who are been gone for a long time. And they were some of the dearest people. One was my stepfather's mother, but she was indeed my grandmother. She was kind, caring, and through her I learned the concept of unconditional love. And that I've carried with me through all my life, because she accepted my sister and I into her family as hers. And she was so welcome. We were just little tykes, or I was a little tyke. And I looked at that picture and I said to Reverend Vaughn, I said, life sucks. Or something on that order. Because there are people that like those two beings that deeply touched my life. And I know it's a cycle of life and all that stuff, but it hurts, and they never leave you. That's the one thing that is a fact, that they never, they are a part of me and always will be. And I'm so grateful for them in my life and the community that came from those two individuals. Reverend Dr. Jim Lockhart, in some writings that he wrote about Ernest Holmes, said, "Our social fabric is always a reflection of our combined consciousness. What is unfolding in the world today is no different. It is a call to find that deeper, truer, authentic self within us and to bring it forth into expression. We must learn that the spiritual principles, do our daily work, to internalize and personalize them without diluting them, and bring them into action, and bring them into communities." And I like that part where he says, to bring them, internalize and personalize them without diluting them. Because so many times in life we
Go ahead.
well, we dilute things, or we don't say or feel or do what came to be done. Like, for instance, sometimes you may be focusing on something to do in your life. You're asking, Spirit, okay, what is mine to do today and whatever. And what comes out of it, you say, oh, no, I can't do that today. And so what you do is you kind of water it down. Like we do with a lot of things in life, we water it down because we cannot deal with the fullness of what is being asked of us. And that is something that we need to kind of get over, because I know there were things that came up in my life, and I said, you know, I had to fight with resist, I guess what you might say. It wasn't fighting, it was resisting for some period of time, and then finally, you know, you might as well give in. You know, when Spirit's talking, sometimes it's time just to say, okay, I give in. So, because once you give in, the Spirit's going to have your back. And that's where communities come in too. That's where the group comes in. Your posse, your party, your tribe, whatever it may be, comes in to support you. What if what you want to be will only come about when you ensure that others get to be that as well? And what if all of humanity was on your team, working towards your good? What if all of humanity was on your team? Just like, what if, you know, your family supported you 100%, you know, your friends, your co-workers. I mean, you may not have the entire world on your team or entire humanity, but you have a team. You have a team, whether it's your family, your friends, your chosen family. Like I said, your work cohorts. Sometimes people you work with become extremely close, as if they were your family. And they support you as you support them. And we as humans, a lot of times what we do, we tend to hold onto things. We hold grudges, resentments, anger, all this stuff that doesn't feed us, it eats at us. And all that does is it causes separation. So releasing hurts and judgments allows us to see the Spirit in everybody. Because if you're holding resentments and judgments and all this against people, you're being blinded. You cannot see the divine in these individuals. Sometimes you have to work at it. It isn't easy. And learning about and fully embracing people from many cultures and all walks of life helps us to be a better community, a better spiritual community, a better community at large, a global community. So trying to learn, we're not trying, like you're a Karate Kid. There's no trying, there's just do, and I forget that. Just learn about other cultures, other walks of life. I mean, I grew up in a little tiny town in the Midwest, and very white, very whatever. And when I went in the Navy at 18, I mean, my whole world opened up to different ethnicities, to different cultures, different people, and it was something that I will never ever regret doing. To getting out of that space, not saying that it was a bad space, but getting out and becoming part of the world and seeing what else was out there. And I'm grateful for that. I got to see other countries and realize and come to realizations that I had never thought of before, which changed my way of thinking. And that's one thing about groups. Groups, you can come together and you can all have different, different opinions, I might say. I know nobody else has a different opinion here. Everybody thinks the same way, has the same opinions about everything. Not true, though. But in a community, in a group, each individual is, I want to say is allowed, but really in fact should be allowed to vocalize, to basically say their piece, to be fair. I was chastised once about thinking there should be fairness in the world. Still haven't gotten over that, I guess. But that's my issue. And the idea of groups, if we hang, like in the idea, if we hang on to resentments and things in groups, then that's going to fester, and the community, the greater group will, will not grow. And then engaging in our spiritual practices of listening, openness, forgiveness, surrender, faith, and trust will all lend to going further together in a community. First of all, of listening. Listening is one of the most powerful tools that a person can I forgot the word I want to say. Accomplish. That's not quite the word I want to say, but learning to listen deep, without immediately having the fix before the person's even done speaking. Listening to the person, because the person may not even need an answer. The person may not be looking for a fix. They just need to be heard. And by learning this and succeeding at it, at learning of the listening, and become open and forgiving, and trust. Trust is a huge thing. I know trust has been a huge thing for me in my life, because there's been a couple times when my trust has been broken, and that hurts. My confidence has been, someone has shared something that had been shared in private, and that does hurt. And you lose trust in that person, and then you're less likely to trust others. A deep spiritual practice will help develop a greater open communication. Honesty, sincerity, and integrity. Honesty, sincerity, and integrity. I'd like to throw in authenticity too. If you are your true self in a group, in a community, that's, to me, the best, all you can be. That is all you can be. Authentic and in integrity with yourself and people around you. As we go through life, we naturally grow and develop, and we change. The growing is changing, whether individually or collectively as a group. So I'm thinking naturally, if the individual changes, what you bring to that group, the group is going to change. Sometimes it may not be for the better, and you may have to change to a different group. The individual is focused on their own personal development. And rightly so. We need to develop. We need to grow individually. Yet when individuals come together in a community, the engagement takes on a different focus of collaboration and shared goals. Because sometimes something that you want to to do or you think needs to be done in the world, you can't do alone. And if you bring it to a group, you can do anything. You can put your heads together, hands together, your hearts together, and you can basically do anything. The individual then needs to bring the group openness and compromise to ensure that everyone's voice and interests are heard. Like I said before, allowing people to voice their opinions. Sometimes they may get a little, I've seen some of these town meetings lately where you've got these people that come in and yes, they have the right to voice their opinions, but sometimes they're not respecting anybody, anything, even themselves. So you need to have a little respect in there when you're voicing your opinion. And if you bring an interest to a group, you may not be the only one interested in it. You may think you're the only one, but if you share it, voila. Working together in camaraderie brings love, shared accountability, participation. Therefore, as we go further together, we simultaneously grow together. Working as a team, as a group, as a tribe, whatever you want to call it, working as a group of people together. A team or tribe is more than one. Like they always say, there's not an I in team. Some people disagree with that. As we build on each other's gifts and strengths, we excel. Meaning, there are more ideas, there's more creativity, there's more diversity, and so much more beyond that. In a tribe, in a team, in a group, you just imagine, the different gifts people have, and allow them to be able to use those gifts, to share those gifts. And think about yourself as a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, a ginormous jigsaw puzzle. A puzzle requires multiple pieces to make a whole picture, I remember, many years ago when I was going to CSL, we had these little puzzle pieces. They were like lapel pins, and it was the idea that you are a piece of the puzzle. You are that little speck of sand that makes a beach. You are the part that makes a whole. Each piece is in service to the whole. Each piece by itself is just a fraction of possibilities available. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So putting each and every one of us together in a community, just think what you can do. Like I said earlier, you can do anything. Anything is possible. Everything is possible in the divine. There's no stopping us. And as we do our own spiritual work and bring it to the whole, we are stronger with that too. no matter what your spiritual practices are, some of us have similar or the same, others are different. To me, a spiritual practice is stopping and connecting with the divine in whatever way you can. One of mine is music. Because music can take me away from a lot of that damn committee that's going on in my head. Because sometimes that committee gets going such a horrible, strong board meeting or whatever, that to take me away, like Calgon take me away, music can do that. It can allow my mind to free up the space. So however we choose to do a spiritual practice, reading, journaling, meditation, contemplation, then that helps us, and in turn, we share it with others. Because we each are a valuable part of that puzzle. The stronger the me, the stronger the we. And I think it goes the opposite way. The stronger the we, the stronger the me. Because we raise each other up. The more we appreciate the uniqueness of everyone in our community, the more we grow and expand in our unified richness. The more we grow and expand. Each patch on a quilt is beautiful on its own. I remember when I was a kid, them having these, quilting, quilting bees they call them. And what came out of it is a beautiful quilt. Yet the entire quilt is a magnificent reflection of the collective patchwork. So when you take each piece and put it together, it becomes something unique. Just as each one of us are unique, so is each community that you belong to. The forest is held together by a shared root ecosystem of the individual trees. And if you saw the movie Avatar, to me that was a beautiful scene where everything was joined together at the roots. They were intertwined and they were connected. And that's what holds, hills together, land together, is the trees, the root systems. And they intertwine and they support. The benefit, as each of us reflects the whole, and is a reflection of the whole. Each one bringing their own unique signature and making the collective picture brighter, more colorful, and glorious. As we grow and grow, we flourish. I ran across this, I don't want to call it a poem, it might be a poem, I have different definitions of poem, but it's an indigenous philosophy. So here goes. I am because we are. The notion that runs in the blood of us Africans, whether conscious or unconscious blood, is thicker than water. It's an ideal left to us by our ancestors, an expensive inheritance, an ideal created with water itself. Humanity towards one another, a bond sharing that connects all humanity, feelings of compassion and tolerance. It's the perception of oneness, driven forward by feelings of unity. A philosophy of sweet love, deeper than the oceans, because I am, because we are. To forgive when wronged, to believe in everyone's abilities and success. Tolerance brings love and hope, because we are, because I am. To eat from the same plate, to drink beer in the same cup, to love your foes, to give your last cent to the pauper, because I am, because we are. So this week, I'd just like to invite you to maybe contemplate, to think about all the different communities that you're a part of, large and small. And then reflect on how you are stronger because of that community, or what you brought to that community, what you've received from that community. And it might be a nice idea to maybe jot it down, so you can reflect on it later. A nice journaling exercise, to just contemplate all the different communities, because if you think about it, you probably belong to countless, I wouldn't want to even imagine, communities. So maybe journal on that. And we have an affirmation to wind it up. It's a little longer than last 2 weeks, but it's not much longer. And I'll speak it through once, and then we can voice it 3 times if you care to join. And here goes. As we go and grow, further together, the world brightens. As we go and grow, further together, the world brightens. As we go and grow further together, the world brightens. And one more time. As we go and grow further together, the world brightens. And so it is. And I want to thank everyone for being here this week and every week, And next week, Reverend Pamela, we switched weeks. She'll be speaking next week. And then on the final Sunday of the month is the 5th Sunday, and that's known as, in our center here, as Practitioner Sunday. And our practitioner, Stephanie Scranton, will be speaking. So it'd be great if you could join in for her. And we're going to have movies. We're going to start back. We're going to have 2 movies this month, seeing it's Halloween. Couldn't decide, so pick 2. The one on this coming Friday night will be at 7 o'clock. It's Nightmare Before Christmas, and you can we have it set up here at the center, or you can watch it on Zoom. We'll Zoom it. And then the following Friday is Coco, the Day of the Dead movie. So in that, I just want to thank everyone, knowing that each and every one of us is a divine piece of the puzzle. Is that valuable, inexplicable piece of the puzzle that makes up the universe. We have our roles to play. We have our place to be. And knowing that each and every one of us is supported, is upheld and lifted by each other, by our communities. I know that this is good. I know that this is true. I let it go and let it be. And so it is.